Hello, my friends. We are back again and talking again about expansion of the United States in colonial time. Today, we're going to be talking about the War of 1812. Now, while this doesn't necessarily expand anything, it did kind of play an important part with continuous expansion, and we'll see why. So, go ahead and write down in your notes your guys' EQ for this lesson, which is going to be describe the War of 1812 and the implications it had on the United States. So, I've got 4 vocab words for this one. The first one is going to be called impressment. Impressment is the practice of forcing men to serve in the military against their will. This is basically if you were to kidnap soldiers and then force them to serve in their army. In this case, it's the War of 1812. The British soldiers used to capture American soldiers and force them to fight fight against the United States with the British. The other next word we have is relations, and this is pretty self-explanatory. This is just how countries interact with each other. Then we have expansion, which is the United States growing bigger. And then we also have doctrine, which is a stated principle of government policy, mainly in foreign or military affairs. Go ahead and write down those 4 words, and then you can move on. So let's start right at the gate. So the War of 1812 was another war fought between the United States and the British Army. Some refer to this as the Second War for Independence. That's not really how it happened. This was kind of a weird war. It was kind of weird. So a couple causes for the war was the impressment of American soldiers. So the American soldiers were, like I said previously, being captured by British soldiers, and then British soldiers were forcing the American soldiers to fight for their naval battleships. Now, alongside each individual side of the war, the British and the United States, there was also another underlying layer of people fighting with them, which was the other respective indigenous peoples that had chosen to side with each person. So that comes into second cause, which was disagreements over trade, disagreements over Western expansion, and then disagreements regarding Native American relations in general. So let's go ahead and jump right into the war now. So the War of 1812 started with the United States attacking the British Navy and the British armies. And they attacked these areas in Canada in 1812. They grew tired of the constant impressment happening. They grew tired of the British soldiers basically bribing Native Americans to stop the United States from expanding west. They grew tired of basically they grew tired of control again, British control. They thought that they had gotten rid of it once before, and then now we're back at it again. So 1812, the United States attacked Canada, and in 1813, the Battle of Lake Erie happens. And with the Battle of Lake Erie, this gave America control of Lake Erie. This gave America a big one-up. This gave America a territory that was wanted. After they gained this, they then raided and burned down Toronto and York, which are two prevalent provinces in Canada that were a big part of Canadian culture and a big part of trade with the British. I see right here, the British had the territory of Canada, and so taking out York and Toronto wiped out a big part of their ports. So in 1814, the British came back and retaliated, and as they retaliated, they came and they burned down and captured Washington, D.C. that was unfinished. And then as they were trying to push them back, they then went through and destroyed the town of Baltimore. So 1814, the British responded and retaliated with burning down Washington, D.C. and completely tearing up Baltimore. And in 1815 was the final war of the battle, or was the final year of the war. And the final battle of the war was actually a bloodless battle called the Battle of New Orleans. Now, the funny thing about this battle was that this battle actually took place after the treaty to end the war was signed, but neither side knew that the treaty was signed. So they just kind of went into battle. But this was a massive win for Andrew Jackson as he led the United States to victory. And he led the United States to be able to push back British forces in New Orleans and was able to control that back. This gave Andrew Jackson a lot of street cred, basically, with the colonists, as he grew in popularity as they saw him as a war hero. The war lasted from 1812 to 1815 with a lot of little mini battles in between, but these three are three of the most important ones as they had the biggest impact on both sides of the war. After 1815, the Treaty of Ghent was signed. And the Treaty of Ghent is what was signed to end the war. This was signed by both parties, and this basically stated, we're done fighting, we're not doing this anymore. Nothing was happening, everybody was just fighting. So it ended the war. But that last Battle of New Orleans took place after because nobody told them that the war had... This was a weird war, it did affect everybody that was involved. Two really big things that came out of the aftermath of this war was during this war, the Star-Spangled Banner was created and became a national anthem for the United States. And then this also caused the Federalist Party to disappear as the colonists started to realize after this war that that the Federalist beliefs and values probably weren't working out the way that they expected them to. So the dislike for the Federalist Party grew. So this is the War of 1812. So go ahead and make sure all notes are filled out. Short lecture today, short lesson, real quick. Make sure everything's filled out and you can move on with your next one.